I never thought the American dream could shatter so completely. At 43, I now own a successful marketing agency and share my life with Amanda, who, ironically, is my ex-wife's sister. 16 years ago, my world collapsed when false accusations of infidelity destroyed everything. My pregnant wife, Sarah, believed a jealous coworker's elaborate lies. My family disowned me and I lost my career. The ultimate betrayal came when Sarah took our unborn child and ended up with my brother. Before I share how my entire family turned against me over false accusations, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Portland, where my parents raised me with traditional values about honesty, hard work, and family loyalty. Those principles shaped my character and guided my decisions throughout my early 20s. When I turned 21, I met Sarah during my junior year of college. She was studying business administration while I pursued marketing. We connected instantly during a campus networking event, bonding over our shared ambitions and complementary personalities. Sarah captivated me with her intelligence and determination. She had this infectious laugh that could lighten any room and a drive that matched my own. Our first date stretched from coffee into dinner and ended with a moonlit walk through campus. I knew that night that she was special. Our relationship progressed naturally through college, and we supported each other through final exams, job applications, and career planning. By 24, we had secured promising entry-level positions and decided to make our commitment official. Our wedding was modest but meaningful, surrounded by family members who beamed with pride. I remember my father clapping me on the shoulder saying, "You chose well, son." Sarah's father, Thomas, a successful attorney, gave a heartfelt speech about welcoming me into their family. If only I had known how conditional that welcome truly was. With our combined incomes, we purchased our first home, a cozy two-bedroom house in a developing neighborhood. We spent weekends painting walls, planting a garden, and planning for our future. Sarah excelled in corporate finance, while I worked my way up at a prestigious marketing firm. Our careers advanced steadily, and by our third anniversary, we had established ourselves professionally. The morning Sarah told me she was pregnant remains one of the happiest moments of my life. I had just brought her breakfast in bed, a Sunday tradition, when she handed me a small wrapped package. Inside was a pair of miniature baby shoes with a note that read, "Ready to become a daddy." I was overwhelmed with joy. Hugging her so tight she laughingly protested. We transformed our home office into a nursery, painting the walls a gentle yellow since we decided to wait to learn the baby's gender. We wanted that delivery room surprise. Sarah would cradle her growing belly as we discussed names and dreamed about whether our child would have her eyes or my smile. Those evenings talking about our future while feeling those first tiny kicks seemed perfect. My position at the marketing firm demanded long hours, but the compensation allowed Sarah to reduce her workload as her pregnancy progressed. I consistently received positive performance reviews and was on track for a management position. The company expanded rapidly, bringing in several new employees across departments. Among the new hires was Megan, an ambitious junior marketing specialist assigned to my team. From her first day, she displayed exceptional talent and a keen understanding of emerging digital trends. She was attractive, there was no denying that, but I maintained strictly professional boundaries. Our interactions focused entirely on projects and deliverables, though I noticed she often found reasons to consult with me privately rather than in team settings. Around Sarah's fourth month of pregnancy, complications arose that required her to significantly reduce activity. Her doctor prescribed bed rest for several weeks after a threatening episode of early contractions. This development naturally altered our routine, with me taking on additional household responsibilities while maintaining my demanding work schedule. The stress was considerable, but I reminded myself that these challenges were temporary. Sarah's condition created an emotional distance between us that I struggled to bridge. When I arrived home exhausted after 12-hour workdays, our conversations became increasingly practical rather than intimate. "Did you pick up my prescription? Replaced? How was your day?" Her discomfort and anxiety about the pregnancy made her understandably irritable, while my growing work pressures left me with little emotional energy. Meanwhile, Megan's behavior at work subtly shifted. She began bringing me coffee prepared exactly as I liked it, offering to stay late to help with projects and finding opportunities for physical proximity. A touch on the arm during conversations or leaning unnecessarily close when reviewing documents. Though uncomfortable, I attributed these actions to her collaborative work style, rather than inappropriate interest. The first real warning came during a family dinner at Sarah's parents' home. Her brother Jason, who had always been cordial, if not particularly warm, made a pointed comment about my late work hours. "Marketing must be especially demanding these days," he said with an edge in his voice. "Sarah barely sees you anymore." Before I could respond, Sarah's father Thomas interjected. "A man with a pregnant wife should prioritize family." The atmosphere chilled instantly. Sarah looked down at her plate while her mother attempted to change the subject. I felt ambushed and defensive, but dismissed their concerns as overprotectiveness toward Sarah. That night, Sarah questioned me more directly about my relationship with Megan, mentioning that a friend who worked in our building had seen us together often. "We are colleagues on the same team," I explained patiently. "Of course we work together." She nodded but seemed unconvinced, attributing her suspicions to pregnancy hormones. I reassured her of my love and commitment, believing this misunderstanding would pass. I had no idea that these concerns were just the beginning of a calculated campaign that would destroy everything I valued. What I initially dismissed as workplace politics soon revealed itself as something far more sinister. Megan had launched a deliberate campaign to create appearances of impropriety between us, with devastating consequences for my marriage and reputation. Her tactics were subtle at first, suggesting lunch meetings at intimate restaurants rather than the company cafeteria, insisting on working late on projects that conveniently required just the two of us. I remained oblivious to her true intentions, focused entirely on work deliverables and supporting my pregnant wife at home. Megan began taking casual photographs during team events, ensuring she stood beside me in group settings. Later, I would discover these images cropped to show just the two of us, creating misleading impressions of intimacy. She orchestrated scenarios where we would be alone together, then ensured colleagues witnessed these moments without context. Her manipulations were so carefully constructed that I never suspected the web being woven around me. The company holiday party in December marked a turning point. The event was held at an upscale downtown hotel with an open bar and festive atmosphere. I planned to make a brief appearance before heading home to Sarah, who was unable to attend due to her pregnancy complications. Megan arrived wearing a striking red dress that drew attention throughout the evening. As the night progressed, she consumed several drinks, becoming increasingly unsteady and emotional. When Megan appeared unable to drive safely, our department head asked if someone could ensure she reached home. Living in the same general direction, I reluctantly volunteered, intending to call a rideshare service for her. As we exited the hotel, she stumbled dramatically, forcing me to support her. Unknown to me, a colleague captured this moment on camera. My arm around Megan's waist, her body leaning into mine, her face turned toward me in what appeared to be intimate conversation. The following Monday, whispers circulated throughout the office. Colleagues who had previously been friendly became distant. My team members seemed uncomfortable in meetings, exchanging glances when I spoke with Megan about project details. Gradually, I realized something had shifted, though I could not identify the cause until my direct supervisor requested a private meeting. "Grant," he began awkwardly, "the company has a clear policy about romantic relationships between team members." Confused, I assured him no such relationship existed. His skeptical expression revealed he had already formed conclusions based on office gossip. "Several employees have expressed concerns about your relationship with Megan," he continued. "This perception is creating a difficult work environment." While struggling to address these unfounded rumors professionally, the situation at home deteriorated dramatically. Sarah received anonymous text messages containing photos from the holiday party and other occasions carefully framed to suggest impropriety. The images arrived with cryptic messages like, "Thought you should know what your husband does while you are home alone, and he does not deserve you, or the baby." Sarah confronted me with trembling hands holding her phone. "Explain this," she demanded, showing me the misleading photos. I recounted each circumstance truthfully, but my explanations sounded hollow even to my own ears. The images stripped of context painted a damning picture. Sarah's pregnancy hormones amplified her emotional response, making rational discussion nearly impossible. Her family, particularly her father Thomas and brother Jason, became increasingly hostile during interactions. They closed ranks around Sarah, treating me with thinly veiled contempt. At a Sunday dinner I had hoped would clear the air, Thomas refused to shake my hand. "A man who betrays his pregnant wife has no honor," he stated coldly, making it clear they had already convicted me without trial. My attempts to explain were dismissed as lies. Each denial seemed to strengthen their belief in my guilt. Sarah's vulnerability during her difficult pregnancy made her especially susceptible to their influence. She began spending more time at her parents' home initially for day visits that gradually extended into overnight stays. Our communication dwindled to terse exchanges about practical matters. Even my own family began expressing doubts. My mother called. After speaking with Sarah's mother, her voice strained with disappointment. "Grant, you know how we raised you," she said. "If you are having difficulties, there are better ways to handle them than betraying your vows." My father, typically my strongest advocate, became uncharacteristically silent during our conversations. The work environment grew increasingly toxic as rumors spread throughout the company. Projects were reassigned, excluding me from key client meetings. Megan, meanwhile, projected an image of the wronged party accepting sympathetic gestures from colleagues while publicly maintaining professional distance from me. I later discovered she had been sharing confidential details of our supposed affair with select coworkers, creating a narrative of emotional manipulation that cast her as a victim of my predatory behavior. The final confrontation with Sarah occurred when she returned home briefly to collect additional belongings. I had prepared a timeline of events with supporting evidence, email exchanges showing strictly professional communication with Megan, witness accounts from trusted colleagues who had observed no inappropriate behavior, and detailed explanations for each misleading photograph. Sarah barely glanced at my carefully assembled defense. "I have seen enough evidence," she said flatly. "Megan came to me directly. She showed me your messages, described your promises to leave me." I was stunned. No such messages existed. When I demanded to see this supposed evidence, Sarah refused. She showed me everything on her phone. I did not need copies. That evening, Sarah announced her decision to move in with her parents until things are sorted out. This temporary measure felt ominously permanent, as she packed far more belongings than a short stay would require. As she prepared to leave, I made a desperate plea. "Think about our baby. We need to work through this together." Her response chilled me. "I am thinking about our baby. I will not raise a child with a man who cannot be trusted." Left alone in our half-empty home, I faced growing isolation. Colleagues avoided me, friends chose sides, and family members expressed varying degrees of disappointment. Each day brought new humiliations as the narrative of my supposed infidelity solidified into accepted fact. Meanwhile, Megan continued her campaign of destruction while maintaining a public image of professionalism and innocence. I had no idea that the worst was yet to come, that I would soon lose not only my marriage, but my entire identity. After 3 weeks of painful separation and minimal communication with Sarah, I made what would prove to be a catastrophic decision. Desperate to speak with her in person, rather than through increasingly hostile text messages, I drove to her parents' home on a Sunday afternoon. I rehearsed a calm, reasonable appeal during the 30-minute drive, convinced that face-to-face conversation might finally break through the wall of misconception. When I arrived, Thomas answered the door with unmistakable hostility. "She does not want to see you," he stated flatly, blocking the entrance. I could glimpse Sarah sitting in the living room behind him, her pregnancy now prominently showing at 6 months. "Please, just 5 minutes," I pleaded. "This is all a misunderstanding. I have never been unfaithful." Thomas's face hardened. "We know exactly what kind of man you are now. The evidence is overwhelming." When I persisted, insisting on speaking directly to my wife, Jason appeared beside his father. The tension escalated rapidly as I took a step forward, not aggressively, but determined. Without warning, Jason shoved me backward, off the porch steps. The fall disoriented me momentarily, but as I struggled to my feet, both men advanced. What followed was a blur of violence. Jason's fist connecting with my jaw, Thomas restraining my arms, while his son delivered repeated blows to my stomach and ribs. Their fury seemed disproportionate, as though they were punishing me not just for the imagined infidelity, but for every disappointment they had ever suffered. Through swollen eyes, I saw Sarah watching from the doorway, one hand protectively cradling her pregnant belly. She made no move to intervene. When the assault finally ended, Thomas delivered his verdict. "You are no longer welcome here or anywhere near my daughter. The next time we will not stop." I drove home with blood soaking my shirt, a fractured rib making each breath painful, and the image of Sarah's impassive face burned into my memory. The following week brought formal divorce papers delivered by courier. Sarah had engaged a high-powered attorney from her father's firm filing for divorce on grounds of adultery and mental cruelty. The documents included a restraining order prohibiting me from contacting her, directly approaching her residence, or visiting her workplace. The allegations detailed in the filing painted me as a serial philanderer who had endangered her health and pregnancy through emotional abuse. My brother Michael initially stood by me, offering his guest room when I could no longer bear the emptiness of the home Sarah and I had shared. "This will blow over," he assured me. "Once the baby comes, she will see reason." His support sustained me through those early weeks. But gradually his attitude shifted. I later learned that Sarah's family had arranged a meeting with him, presenting their evidence in a carefully orchestrated intervention. Like everyone else, he eventually accepted their version of events. The legal battle consumed my finances and emotional resources. Sarah's family's wealth and connections proved insurmountable advantages. Their attorneys successfully argued that my pattern of infidelity and dishonesty warranted limited future access to our child. The court awarded Sarah primary custody, with my visitation rights to be determined after the birth, contingent upon completing parenting classes and therapy for impulse control and relationship issues. While fighting this losing legal battle, my professional life imploded spectacularly. The workplace scandal had reached executive leadership, who decided that terminating my employment would be in the best interest of the company culture. My direct supervisor delivered the news with clinical detachment, offering a minimal severance package contingent upon signing a non-disclosure agreement. 10 years of dedicated service ended with a 20-minute exit interview and security escorting me from the building. The final familial rejection came during a tense dinner at my parents' home. They had invited me ostensibly to offer support, but the atmosphere felt more like an intervention. My father, a man of few words, delivered their verdict. Sarah's family shared some information with us. "Photographs, testimonials from your coworkers. We did not raise you to behave this way." My mother's tearful disappointment proved even more devastating than my father's condemnation. They suggested I take time to reflect before contacting them again. A polite but unmistakable disowning. Financial ruin followed swiftly. Legal fees depleted my savings, while the divorce settlement awarded Sarah our home and most joint assets. Unemployed and increasingly unemployable, as word of my misconduct spread throughout the industry, I exhausted credit cards covering basic living expenses. Eviction from my apartment became inevitable as months passed without steady income. The most devastating blow arrived on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. A former colleague who had remained cautiously friendly texted me, "Thought you should know. Michael and Sarah were seen together at Le Bistro last night. Looked pretty cozy." Initial disbelief gave way to crushing certainty, as additional sightings were reported. My brother and estranged wife had formed a relationship, while I struggled to rebuild some semblance of stability. Sarah delivered our daughter in April. I learned about the birth not through direct communication but via a sterile legal notice, informing me that custody arrangements would need to be finalized. My repeated requests to see my child were deflected with procedural delays and additional requirements. Meanwhile, social media posts revealed Michael had assumed a paternal role, present for moments I desperately yearned to experience. By summer, I had reached rock bottom. Living in a dingy studio apartment in a city 4 hours from Portland, I worked successive minimum wage jobs to survive. Depression engulfed me completely, making each day a monumental effort. Suicidal thoughts became frequent companions held at bay only by the faint hope of someday knowing my daughter. The absolute nadir arrived when Facebook's algorithm helpfully suggested I might want to friend Michael. His profile picture showed him with Sarah and my infant daughter posed like a perfect family unit during a beach vacation. The casual domesticity of that image, my brother holding my child while my estranged wife leaned affectionately against him, shattered whatever emotional resilience I had maintained. That night I drafted farewell letters before ultimately falling into exhausted sleep without taking action. I could never have imagined that my salvation would come through an unlikely encounter with the one person I should have avoided at all costs, Sarah's younger sister Amanda. 6 months into my self-imposed exile, I established a simple routine centered around survival. Each morning I worked the early shift at a local diner, followed by evening hours at a warehouse loading dock. Between jobs, I frequented a small coffee shop where the owner, an elderly man named Frank, allowed customers to linger without purchasing additional items. The atmosphere provided anonymous comfort during my darkest period. One Tuesday afternoon, I was reviewing employment listings on a borrowed newspaper when someone approached my table. "Grant, is that you?" Looking up, I encountered an achingly familiar face, Amanda, Sarah's younger sister. I nearly fled before registering her expression contained no hostility, only cautious concern. "May I sit down?" she asked quietly. Against better judgment, I nodded. Amanda had always been the family outlier, pursuing photography rather than the law or finance careers favored by her relatives. We had been friendly during family gatherings, but never particularly close. Her presence, now hundreds of miles from Portland, seemed impossible coincidence. "I am in town for an exhibition," she explained, sensing my confusion. "I recognized you through the window." An uncomfortable silence followed before she continued. "I never believed what they said about you." Those simple words penetrated the protective numbness I had cultivated. Amanda proceeded to share observations I had never considered. "Megan approached Sarah before sending those messages," she revealed. "She befriended her at your company events, positioning herself as the concerned colleague who hated being the messenger. It was calculated from the beginning." Amanda had discovered damning evidence while using Sarah's laptop months earlier. Text exchanges between Megan and a friend explicitly detailing her plan to seduce me, and when that failed to create evidence of an affair that never existed. "She wanted your position," Amanda explained. "You were on the management track she coveted. When professional sabotage proved insufficient, she targeted your personal life. I struggled to process this confirmation of my innocence from such an unexpected source." "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked. Her answer was simple. "Because what happened to you was wrong, and nobody else had the courage to stand against the narrative." That conversation initiated a cautious friendship. Amanda returned to Portland but maintained contact through emails and occasional phone calls. She became my tenuous connection to the daughter I had never met, sending photographs when possible, and updates on her development. Each image was treasure and torture simultaneously, my child growing without knowing me, calling another man daddy. 4 months into this unusual correspondence, Amanda shared information that catalyzed action. Megan had been terminated from the marketing firm after attempting similar manipulations with another colleague. Her reputation damaged, she had become careless in conversations, occasionally referencing her takedown of me with misplaced pride. With Amanda's encouragement, I began the painful process of legal rehabilitation. We documented Megan's contradictory statements, collected testimonials from former colleagues who had witnessed her manipulations, and gathered digital evidence from her social media, where she had occasionally been indiscreet about her methods. The turning point came when Amanda arranged a chance encounter with Megan at an industry conference in Seattle. Wearing a concealed recording device, she engaged Megan in conversation about career advancement strategies. After several drinks, Megan boasted about orchestrating my downfall, providing explicit details that corroborated my long-standing claims of innocence. This recording, while ethically questionable, offered irrefutable proof of her deliberate campaign. Armed with this evidence, I secured legal representation, through a former client sympathetic to my situation. The process of clearing my name professionally began with formal communications to my previous employer outlining Megan's misconduct with supporting documentation. Though initially resistant, the company eventually acknowledged their rushed judgment, offering a modest settlement and carefully worded letter acknowledging my termination had been based on misleading information. Simultaneously, I channeled my marketing expertise into building a small consulting business. Beginning with a single client who remembered my work favorably, I gradually established credibility in digital marketing strategies. Working remotely allowed me to serve clients nationally, while keeping expenses minimal. Each small success rebuilt not only my financial stability, but my shattered confidence. My evolving friendship with Amanda gradually revealed deeper connection. Despite the bizarre circumstances, we shared similar values and complementary perspectives. She understood the family dynamics that had contributed to my downfall in ways no one else could. After 2 years of platonic friendship, our relationship naturally evolved into something more profound, though we both recognized the complex ethical implications. "People will assume you pursued me for revenge," Amanda acknowledged during our first serious discussion about the future. "Are you prepared for that?" The question forced honest examination of my motivations. My feelings for her existed independently of her connection to Sarah, based on her integrity, creativity, and the unwavering support she had provided when I had nothing to offer in return. When Sarah and Michael eventually discovered our relationship, the reaction was predictably volcanic. Sarah launched a campaign to turn Amanda against me, revealing family secrets and manipulations that demonstrated a disturbing pattern. Their parents threatened financial disinheritance if Amanda continued betraying family loyalty. Throughout this storm, Amanda remained steadfast, exposing the conditional nature of her family's supposed values. Our wedding occurred 3 years after that coffee shop encounter, a small ceremony attended by a handful of friends and my cautiously reconciling parents. The most meaningful gift arrived unexpectedly. A handmade card from my 5-year-old daughter facilitated by Amanda during an authorized visit. Though I remained legally constrained from regular contact, this small gesture suggested possible future connection. Through discipline and innovative business approaches, my marketing consultancy expanded into a respected digital agency. Financial security provided leverage in negotiating more reasonable access to my daughter, though Sarah and Michael continued creating obstacles at every opportunity. The ultimate validation came when several former colleagues from the original firm sought positions within my growing company, having witnessed the truth gradually emerge. The journey from complete destruction to rebuilding required nearly a decade of persistent effort. Each small victory, professional recognition, financial stability moments with my daughter, and building a genuine partnership with Amanda, formed stepping stones across the abyss I had once faced. The scars remained, but no longer defined my identity or limited my capacity for happiness. 16 years after that devastating false accusation, life has found a new equilibrium. My relationship with my now teenage daughter has gradually strengthened, though the lost years can never be recovered. Sarah and Michael's marriage eventually collapsed under the weight of mutual distrust, ironically triggered by his suspected infidelity. My parents, having witnessed the full truth emerge, made tentative overtures toward reconciliation that I cautiously accepted. The most profound lesson emerged through unexpected paths to healing. Forgiveness proved not a single act, but a continual choice. Never forgetting the injustice, but refusing to be diminished by bitterness. True family transcended biological connection, formed instead through unwavering support during darkest moments. Amanda and I created something beautiful from the wreckage of betrayal, raising 2 children of our own, alongside my now regular relationship with my firstborn daughter. If you have ever faced devastating false accusations or family betrayal, I hope my story offers some measure of hope. The journey back requires tremendous patience and persistence, but rebuilding is possible. Have you experienced similar family betrayals or false accusations? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming life's deepest challenges. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes our greatest strength emerges after we have been completely broken.